It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech, episode 273. A great panel here to talk about the new Microsoft Kinect and why it's going to beat the Wii. Or is it? Also, we're going to talk about violent video games. Should the state of California be able to ban them? And finally, bye-bye to the white iPhone. It's all coming up next on This Week in Tech. Stay.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Audio bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by Winamp. Subscribe to TWiT and all your favorite podcasts with the ultimate media player. Download it for free at winamp.com. Video bandwidth for TWiT is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 273, recorded November 7th, 2010. The sweet spot of suck. This Week in Tech is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Reduce costs, improve efficiencies, and help your company's bottom line with GoToMeeting. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomeeting.com/twit. And by Audible.com. Sign up for the Platinum Plan and get 2 free books. Go to audible.com/twit2 and follow Audible on Twitter. User ID audible_com. And by Ford and the new 2011 Ford Edge. It grabs attention as well as it grabs the road and features available My Ford Touch to connect you to your vehicle in new and innovative ways. The 2011 Ford Edge. Drive one this week at a Ford dealer near you. It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech. We're covering all the latest tech news, and we've got 3 great contributors here on the panel. Starting in my upper left, Lance Ulanoff from PC Magazine. Hey, Lance, good to see you again. Editor-in-Chief.
That's correct. PCMag.com. That's where you can go.
That's where you can go to find Lance. He's holding down the fort for traditional technology journalism. Thank God somebody is. It's good to have you.
I'm trying.
A little less traditional, but still none the less authoritative. Ryan Block from Gadget, gdgt.com, formerly of Engadget.
Yes,
He's
I like gadgets.
Unended. And I'm going to see you in Paris. You and Veronica are going to Paris for Le Web.
That's right. That's
Can't
right.
wait.
Are you gonna be in San Francisco this Friday?
Oh, yeah, you're having a big event on Friday. We are. In fact, I think we're bringing cameras down and covering it. Are we not?
You guys are, but I want to see you there, Leo, personally. You don't have to be covering it. I just want to see you there.
So Gadget does these events. Your first one was in San Francisco. You're coming back to San Francisco for the first time. So what is it that you do?
Basically, we do a consumer event where we bring a whole bunch of gadget and personal technology companies together under one roof, and we open it to the public. We do, free drinks. We give away T-shirts. Just a lot of awesome stuff. We have a ridiculous amount of amazing. We have almost 50 companies this time, which is by far the biggest event we've ever done.
You gonna have any of that Volt plus caffeine stuff that you were drinking the other day?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You know that stuff that's the alcoholic beverage in a can that has caffeine in it? You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I've
you know
never
the stuff
had
that the binge drinkers in colleges are killing themselves with? You know what I'm talking about.
No, I just go with traditional caffeine. I'm just a coffee kind of guy, personally.
Or maybe it was Mark Milian that was drinking that. Mark Milian, hey, congratulations on the new gig, Mark. The last time we talked was with the LA Times. You've moved on to CNN.
That's right. I profiled you in the LA Times. Yeah, now I'm at CNN and moved to San Francisco. So enjoying the new city. And it's good to see you, Leo. And I guess I'll see you on Friday at Ryan's party.
I guess I don't have any choice. Actually, it's Loco. It's that Loco stuff. L-O-K-O. Or C-O. L-O-C-O. You know, in the can? Nothing. Come on, Ryan.
Sorry, man. Can't help you.
I'm sure it was on Instagram I saw you drinking that. Maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was M.G. Siegler.
That makes sense.
That sounds right, huh?
He's got the kind of job right now where he needs to
For Loco.
really be on his game.
It's for the binge drinker in us all. Yeah, I think it was. It was Sarah Lane. It's actually, now that I remember, it was Sarah Lane. So welcome. It's good to see you all. Thank you for joining us. How many of you, look, Lance is doing the Kinect thing. How many of you have been playing with the Microsoft? I got mine on, was it Thursday?
Oh, you're already playing with it.
Oh, I love it.
I've tried it. I like it.
What's your favorite game?
Dance Central. Well, I only have two. I have the one that came with it, which is Kinect Adventures. This is the new. It was originally called Project Natal. Microsoft put as adding a camera. It's actually a couple of cameras. It's a video camera plus an infrared sensor to a bar that goes below the TV, hooks up to your Xbox 360, and then if you have a Kinect-enabled game, instead of using a joystick or controller, it has voice control, pretty good voice control, but mostly it's about your body, and it sees your whole body. So unlike the Wii or the Move controller, it's not just what you're holding. You're not holding anything. It's what you're doing.
It doesn't just see your body. It sees the whole room. It sees that.
It does. In fact, they say, some people have said, that it doesn't. It works better with white people. That it's racist.
And that is not true.
You don't think that's true, Lance?
It was about the lighting in the room, right?
It's funny. I was just thinking about this. Just by chance, the young man who reviewed it for PC Mag, Jeff Wilson, is an African American who happened to fall in love with the product and just said how it consistently. Caught all of his movements. It was almost flawless. So, I think that's proof.
I think it works pretty well, and it recognizes me. And I'm very dark-skinned for an Italian.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I was playing the Dance Central game, so I have the Kinect Adventures that comes with that. But I bought Dance Central, and that's the game where you got a guy dancing, and then you mimic the moves, and it's got all this modern, music for the young people, things like the Kingston Trio. I just love it. I really had a great time. And my kid, now here, this is interesting. My 16-year-old kid, who poo-pooed the Wii, thought the Wii was stupid, loved it too. In fact, his friends, they were all doing it. So I think this might have a, how about you, Ryan? You must have played with this, or does this not follow in your?
No. I played with it. I wrote a little review of it.
What'd you think?
It's pretty good.
Here's the question: Will it have legs? Yeah, I'm not a Wii fan either. Will it have legs? Will it survive better than the Wii did?
The Wii had a pretty good run so far, and it's not dead. But we all heard the story. I think a week and a half ago about how Nintendo had its first net loss in a quarter. In over 7 years. So they are clearly on the descent right now. They're going downhill. They're not going uphill anymore. Wii is just not, I've always kind of felt like the Wii was kind of a gimmick, and it didn't really have a lot of substance.
Well, one of the reasons that the Wii's kind of going downhill is its low-res screen.
It's not high def.
Right. Nintendo managed to spend the last couple of years not updating it. They're just riding on the initial success. And because a console like a Wii or the Xbox or the PlayStation, they're all more than just gaming systems. You do things like watch Netflix movies. Well, who wants to watch a Netflix movie on a Wii when it's going to be 480p at best?
Right.
That is the biggest problem with the Wii. If they had upgraded the resolution in some way, I think they'd still be running.
I mean, look, they made a lot of money on it. It was the best-selling console for a couple of 3 years. But I think maybe you're right. The time has come.
Well, it was also the cheapest console for that time, too. And the cheapest console is usually the best-selling console. But in terms of attach rate, which is what the industry, it's the industry term for how many games and accessories and products do you buy to go along with the console, because that's where the real money is made. The money is almost never made on the console. It's usually made in software licensing. The Wii was the best-selling console, but it had by far the worst attach rate. So Nintendo is not making its money by selling a lot of video games from other people. It was making all of its money by selling the console and by selling first-party games.
I bought the console, I bought the Wii Fit, I bought 3 games, and then I never bought anything again after that.
Pretty much. I mean, my Wii is basically sat there forever. I've never really used it. Every time I try to use it, I get very frustrated with it.
Yeah.
We also haven't seen a lot of good game releases from Nintendo or otherwise in the last few months. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Zelda game. I'm hanging on to my Wii for that. But otherwise, maybe Donkey Kong, but there's really not that much coming out that I'm very excited for the Wii.
Is Kinect, it's the same kind of social gaming? Is it going to, Mark, you think it'll replace the Wii, or do you think it's good enough to be the next big thing?
I don't have an Xbox, but I have played with it, and I played with it quite a bit at E3. And my favorite game was Adventures. I really enjoyed that one.
That comes with it, so you get that part of the price.
Yeah, you know, I was talking to Phil Spencer, who's at Xbox, and he was saying that Adventures was the very first idea and the very first game that they worked on. I mean, they had this idea from the get-go, and they're like, wouldn't this be an awesome idea? And then they gave sports to Rare. And it seems like they're going to be investing a whole lot into this system, but still not, I mean, not throwing the hardcore gamers out. They've still got Gears of War and all of these games coming out that they're focusing on. So it's really splitting the system into two separate audiences as far as I see it.
I've only played one sort of gamer's game on this motion control stuff, and it was actually on the Move. I had one of those devices with the little soft end. For some reason on the Kinect thing, it's been, at least at first blush, it's been a lot of family-oriented games, which, you know, I think is a good way for the company to get started with this particular market, because they know that Nintendo was so successful, but they can't ride on that. They got to do a whole bunch of other stuff. But the technology is very extensible. I think they'll keep refining it. They'll probably be able to do a lot in software. They have that company that actually developed the technology behind it that's still working on it, and I think they'll get more from them. So once they get this in the house and you don't have to keep selling them new devices to hold, I think it's going to be pretty successful.
I think the problem with that family-first strategy, Lance, is that Nintendo never really did anything with it on the Wii. We still haven't really seen a whole lot of hardcore games, and the people who go out and buy dozens of games a year aren't taking to the Wii because there aren't titles that are geared toward them. So if Microsoft wants to create this sort of like casual gamer thing, then they have to weight it with something else that's going to keep their hardcore consumer satisfied.
You know, it might be a problem with the Wii or the Kinect is latency. I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to overcome this very slight lag as the thing sees you, senses you, and tells the game where you are. And while that's not a big deal when you're dancing or ducking or river rafting, it might be a huge deal if you're trying to shoot an alien. I don't know.
There are definitely some issues there. I mean, I think that when you look at Microsoft and the Kinect, though, you do kind of have to look at it as them catering to two different markets. And I don't think the Kinect is intended to be your mechanism of gameplay for something like, you know, Call of Duty or Gears of War. I mean, they've been pretty clear that they see those games as working best on the controller, and I think that they do. And I think that most hardcore games are, you know, a gamer's game does. And I think that that's part of the reason why the Wii has had such a hard time, is because the Wii control mechanisms have really worked best for, you know, the kinds of more casual games that you don't, you know, really have to do as much with. I mean, you know, there are just not as many gamers games on the Wii, and Microsoft has that. They've proven that they've been able to do that really well, and they're now #1 and #2 in almost every single one of those metrics that you would use. So I think Kinect is really about broadening it, making a larger.
Yeah, in
footprint.
fact, if you think about it, they own the hardcore game market. They own, I think, the set-top box market right now. Xbox 360 is still, I think, the best set-top box if you want to watch Netflix, Amazon. Microsoft has its own movie service, sales and rental. And then you add family or social gaming, which seems to me a new category that we invented. You pretty much cover the waterfront, don't you? Isn't that the device everybody wants in their living room?
I think so. You know what I wonder? I wonder how excited any hardcore gamer is about any of these motion control technologies. I still feel like they trust the controller more. You know, just because we were talking about, you know, they're very competitive.
Well, think about, I mean, PC gamers laugh at consoles because they have a whole keyboard and the consoles just have these few buttons. So
right, but then they use those buttons. I mean, if you see, for example, you see my son. I mean, he is a master with that Xbox controller.
But then watch somebody play StarCraft on a keyboard, and you see why they want all that control.
That's a good point. You know, I've heard a lot of game publishers have tested the idea of interoperability between PC gamers and console gamers.
It's just not fair.
And, you know, for a decade, I've been thinking, why can't I play my friend who has the computer version of this game? It doesn't make sense. But exactly, Leo. The PC gamers kill them time and time again, just because they're so much better with the controls than using a cramped, you know, handheld controller.
Microsoft actually tested this a few years ago, if you remember. They created a system where certain games would be compatible on Xbox Live on Windows and on Xbox, and they actually did find that they had to shut it down basically because the console gamers were getting creamed. But at the same, it's like there are different kinds of games work better on different platforms, and controllers work better for platform style games than they do first person shooters, and keyboard and mouse works better for first person shooters than it does for a game like Mario. So it's there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
Well, and clearly console sales have not suffered over the years from PC gaming.
Consoles were invented for platforms, and PCs were invented for first-person shooters. I mean, well, not invented for, but that's where they made their name.
Doom. Duke Nukem.
Right. Quake.
My favorites.
Yeah. Great games.
Wolfenstein 3D.
Wolfenstein, baby. Now we're talking.
I mean, it's not all about which genre of games is best suited for which controllers. I mean, there's some just core differences between playing a game on a PC and playing on a console in that. And Blizzard has run into this too. It's the same reason they don't put any of their games on the console because the console is the social experience, and a lot of their games do their social through the internet.
Didn't Steam say they were going to put Steam on PS3, I thought? Or maybe it was Xbox. They announced that, I think, at E3. Haven't seen it yet. But that's a
I don't know about that. I mean, that's pretty... Because Steam is at its core, it's a game distribution system.
Yeah,
and that is what Microsoft owns with Xbox Live, and that's what Sony owns with PlayStation Network and PlayStation Store, and that's what Nintendo owns with Wii, whatever it's called, Wii Store. I can't remember what it's called. I'd be pretty surprised to see that. I mean, it'd be pretty awesome, but I don't know.
Valve announces. I'm looking at the story from June 16th. Valve announces Steam for PS3. At the E3 show, but announcing it, I don't think they ever released it, so I don't know.
I wonder if that was when
Steam
PS3
works.
I wonder if that was when PS3 still supported Linux, and so maybe you would install Linux
now
and
that
then
it
get
doesn't.
Steam on it.
Yeah, right. Now it doesn't. So forget it. Did you see Leander Kahane's story? What a great story this was. A scoop. He actually was on an airplane. He says in June 2008, a flight home from Europe to San Francisco. And he sat next to Einon Baracha, who was the CEO of an Israeli company called PrimeSense. Baracha and PrimeSense had developed a low-cost chip and software to do 3D machine vision. The system used a pair of cameras and an infrared sensor to highlight people and track their movements. He showed it to him, like Minority Report style motion and movement and so forth. And he said, we really wanted to sell it to Apple. He said, we think that this technology would be best with Apple. However, he'd already had several meetings with Apple. He said it was the first place they thought of. It was the most natural place for the technology. But Apple made him, he said the initial meetings hadn't gone so well. Obsessed with secrecy, Apple had already asked Baracha to sign a stack of crippling legal agreements and NDAs. He shook his head. Why didn't he want to do a deal with Apple? No need. He said, the technology's hot. I'll sell it to anyone. He sold it to Microsoft, and it's the heart of Kinect. Apple, he said, is a pain in the ass. Great story.
So
I've never heard anyone say that about Apple before.
I actually heard this exact same story, not same company, but like you can take PrimeSense and replace it with company X that told me this story, and replace the CEO with that CEO. Exact same story. And now they're a very, very successful company who's selling to basically everybody but Apple.
Right.
I can add that. I can add a company Y as well, who I met with about a week ago and had the exact same story. I'm working on a profile on them right now, so I don't exactly want to say who it is, but it's the exact same deal where they had these talks and they're like, oh, this is sounding good, until they get in the room and Apple says, yeah, why don't you just make a prototype for us? And like, oh, all right, well, you think you'll carry it in your app store? And like, no. We just want to see it. We like what you have so far, but we want to see one running on iPhone. Like, we'll talk to one of the other companies that are doing something similar.
Does that hurt Apple? Does that hurt them? I mean, can they get away with that?
Yeah, Apple's really not doing so well these days.
Yeah,
you gotta pity them and their $80 trillion. They're so far behind right now.
Every single day. I mean, Apple why do people love Apple products so much? Because they work consistently, because they're in that ecosystem. The companies they work with, they make them take a blood oath, and they control the environment, they control the relationship from A to Z. Microsoft doesn't. It's interesting, when PrimeSense was at E3, they were in a little back room, and they were sort of showing, they were kind of ripping off the covers of Kinect, basically to show you the guts that they had helped provide, the middleware. And it was weird, because I kept saying, well, is Microsoft comfortable with you doing this? They're like, Microsoft doesn't really care. The relationship is completely different. Microsoft got what they needed. They're very happy. They're going to sell this product.
They should be.
And they sort of just walk away. Apple, you're theirs. You're theirs until they say you're done.
Of course, I can remember a time when Microsoft would be just as predatory. They'd invite a company, and they did this for years in the 80s and 90s. Invite a company in, say, show us everything. Oh, we're very interested in acquiring you. Then they find out everything. We're not that interested, and they steal it, basically.
Then they go build it themselves.
So
here's the thing that most people tend to forget about Apple, and I'm sure that this is going to really piss a lot of people off. But Apple, as forward thinking as they are, and so on and so forth, they don't really take a lot of risks. They don't bet on brand new technologies. They are actually very, very conservative. Every product that they build is usually based around an existing technology, something that's been around for a long time. You're not going to see Apple with the first LTE phone. You're not going to see Apple with a WiMAX phone. They're going to wait until everything is sorted out and the bugs are worked out and the kinks are done, and then they're going to get into it. So, something like this, I don't think that they would have risked it. And frankly, for what? I mean, what would they have done with it? They tend to wait to see what works out in the marketplace and then adopt it very slowly. Look at Blu-ray. Look at USB 3.0. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on.
Ryan, what if they had incorporated it into Apple TV? What if Apple TV was controlled by gestures? I think Apple certainly could have used it. For whatever reason, obviously
Apple needed to make the Apple TV $99. Would the Apple TV have been $99 if it had a Kinect attached to it? It would have been, the first Apple TV with this thing would have been like $500. And instead of selling, only 20,000 units, it would have sold 20 units. And the second Apple TV, which is $99, would have been $250 or maybe even more.
It's kind of a contrarian point of view of Apple, though, because you always think of them as an innovator.
No, I'm not saying that they're not an innovator, but there's a difference between innovation and being on the bleeding edge in terms of technology.
Well, and you said it with Blu-ray and USB 3. There's two very good examples of products that I don't think we're going to ever see on Apple.
Yeah, so there's a very fine line. I mean, that's not. I would never argue that Apple does not create markets and that Apple is not a forward-thinking company. But people forget they can, and they tend to confuse these two things. That Apple is the most high tech. I mean, they're not. They actually are low tech in a lot of ways. They wait for the technology to become commoditized and to become cheap and to become extremely stable, and that's when they execute.
Well, I think that's sort of that's kind of a generalization. I think Apple is probably the most strategic technology company out there. I wouldn't call them old-fashioned because of the way in which they're able to put together disparate technologies to make a cohesive thing. But I agree with you that they're savvy enough to understand that there's a sort of a beautiful marriage between good technology and good pricing, a good strategy to market. Which is something that you don't see across this industry. You don't see in Microsoft right now, which sometimes gets it, sometimes doesn't get it right. But by the way, that thing you said about LTE, you're probably right, but at the same time, Apple still can surprise. So I don't know if that's true that we won't see the first LTE phone from Apple.
But LTE isn't necessarily ready for prime time. I mean, we haven't seen any devices running LTE in this country, so maybe there's battery problems. Maybe you'll just have a crappy phone. Maybe those first batch of LTE phones just won't be worth having.
I'm going to go on the record that Apple is not going to have the first, maybe even the second or the third LTE phone. They're going to be.
I think you're probably right about that.
They're going to be later in the game. And Lance, you and I, let's follow up on email. I want to put a gentleman's bet on this, man.
Interesting.
How do you know it's really Lance here? You know, it's the camera's moving around so much, it could be anyone.
We don't know who it is. All right, hold on, guys. This is good. Lance Ulanoff is here, PC Magazine editor-in-chief. Ryan Block of GDGT.com, and Mark Milian now of CNN. What's your title at CNN now, Mark? What are you doing?
I am a tech writer at CNN.
Wait a minute. They're not putting you on camera? Sure they are.
I'm actually going to be on tomorrow morning talking about Google TV. But
yeah, I think you need.
well,
let's talk about Google TV. The Logitech review is out. We'll get a review from these guys. We also have pricing on the Nintendo 3DS. Finally, in fact, we're not done with video games. The Supreme Court taking a look at the California law preventing the sale of violent video games to minors. Lots more to come in just a second. Before we do that, though, I'd like to mention our friends at Citrix who have given us so many great products over the years. And if you're a business person, you've got to know about GoToMeeting. It is the way to meet online to save yourself money and time and stress traveling to an in-person meeting, but yet making that conference call, which is normally kind of boring, into something very engaging with visuals. GoToMeeting.com. If you're looking out for ways, as most companies are these days, to cut costs, to improve processes, to work more efficiently, I want you to take a look at GoToMeeting.com. You can try it free right now for 30 days. Go to GoToMeeting.com/twit. GOTO meeting.com/twit. It'll take you about 30 seconds to install it. Once you've got it installed, now you can have a meeting. Send an email to a friend or a colleague saying, I'd like to show you my PowerPoint presentation. I'd like to work together with you on a document. I'd like to train you on how to use this software. You know, it's good for all of that. It improves conference calls by making them visual. You share your screen with the conferees, and by the way, vice versa. If they want, they could show you their screen as well. They don't even, and this is important, they don't have to have it installed ahead of time. With GoToMeeting, you send them the invitation, they click the link. It takes about 30 seconds to install. Boom, they're ready and ready to go. I just love it. GoToMeeting.com/Leo. Give it a try. We know you'll like it. The folks at Citrix have really done a great job. GoToMeeting.com/twit. So the Nintendo 3DS, this, I don't know if this is a leak. I don't think it's an official announcement. This is the product they showed. I was a little underwhelmed by this at E3. Comes out in Japan February 26th of next year, and March in the U.S. and Europe. So it was more than a year after they showed it. Well, not more than a year, almost a year after they showed it at E3. They showed it in June. And in Japanese yen, it ain't going to be cheap. $300. Aqua Blue and Cosmo Black.
I don't know, Leah.
I don't know either. I think too little, too late, right? I was unimpressed by this thing.
I'm pretty bearish on Nintendo, obviously, but this just seems like such short-term thinking to me. I mean, okay, yes.
They're trying to keep this franchise alive, right?
Yeah, I'm totally willing to admit that the PSP phone that we saw leaked on a gadget was, it looks like
is that real?
Weird, crazy Frankenstein. That's real. It's got to be real.
How
I guarantee
could it
it's real.
be?
Well, I mean, you think about it, like you can't build portable gaming devices forever into the future. People are just going to eventually their tastes are going to move to mobile gaming on your phone.
So really, the phone is the future of mobile gaming. These are just stopgap measures to try to hold on.
That's why I think it's short-term thinking is Nintendo doesn't know what else to make. They only know how to make this one thing. And frankly, if I were at the head of Nintendo right now, I would be starting a pivot to making Nintendo,
phone.
What could essentially be the biggest and most powerful game software company in the world.
Right.
But as long as they're focused on building their own hardware, they're just going to be, in nosedive position for the next few.
Nokia made that gaming phone and it was just a big flop. Maybe
the N-Gage.
The N-Gage.
Was that too soon? Was that too early?
That's crap. Mobile
that's another way to put it.
Mobile phones are not the future of gaming, Leo. They are the present. I mean, come on.
Yeah, bingo.
I carried around an iPhone 4 for a while, which I really loved. And, of course, I was doing a bunch of stuff with it. But, yes, I was playing games. And I always remember, I think it was, I forget which Apple event where they positioned the phone and the iPod Touch, I think, as gaming devices.
Every event, for the last 2 years, they've said it's gaming, gaming.
And when they first did it, I was kind of like, well, that's presumptive. I mean, how do they do that? And how do they do that? They have a library of 300,000 apps, many of them games, many of them 99 cents are free. Easy, super easy access. You don't have to go to GameStop and buy something to put it on there. You just pick it out of a library online. You just download it to your phone. You start playing it. I saw the Nintendo 3DS. I went to the event and I saw it, and I was like, well, this is... I felt like I was looking at a technology demonstration. Hey, look, they found a way to make 3D on a handheld device without glasses. I just have to move this little thing to keep it in focus. Right. And then after that, I kind of forgot about it because I didn't see it as a practical device in any way, shape, or form. And, you know, again, I go to my son, the most avid gamer in my house. He has a Nintendo DS with the cameras. It sits around most of the time. He never touches it.
Lance, I think some of those things you pointed out as advantages for phones aren't necessarily exclusive to a smartphone. Things like digital distribution and cheap games. It doesn't have to be a phone to do that. I mean, by the argument that all gaming will be going to phones, and I'm playing devil's advocate here because I don't have a PSP or a DS. But to say that all gaming will be on phones is to make the same argument that the iPad is going to kill the Kindle and that we don't want single-purpose devices. I think the DS and the PSP, they have very good hardcore games, but the problems there are that they're expensive. You have to go to the stores. I mentioned Blizzard earlier for why they aren't developing for the traditional systems. And the big reason they told me they're not making games for the Wii and for the DS is that the manufacturers build their business around charging royalties on each game sold. And they're like, that's not fair. They could, I mean, Apple sells the same thing, but somehow these game developers find a way to go for bulk and to sell at cheap prices. So I think the distribution model could use some work. But the phone is not necessarily going to kill these systems, but it could.
To say that single-purpose devices are, you know, that because they are single-purpose devices, they are therefore going to be, you know, the harbinger of the future of that genre. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like Kindle works, I think, one, because it's really cheap. Because the content that you get on that is still digitally distributed, and because it does something that the iPad doesn't, which is, in addition to being way lighter and smaller, it's a far more effective ebook reader, if nothing else, right? Like reading books on it is every bit as good.
I thought the iPad would kill the Kindle, and I was obviously wrong with the Kindle.
I mean, the iPhone can't do 3D. Right. The iPhone doesn't have dedicated controls, so in some respects,
that's what I was going to say. Is if you have a portable, if you have a phone like the PSP phone that does have controls. I mean, clearly the hardware is to the point now where, you know, it's every bit as good as the PSP, if not better, you know, constantly getting better. Storage is not a concern. It's got connectivity where those other devices don't. You're not going to see a 3DS with 3G, so you're not going to be able to download stuff wherever you are at a moment's notice. I mean, if all we're really talking about is controls, that is a fixable problem.
That's not all we're talking about. You guys have all said the same thing. The difference, the answer is distribution. You can hand somebody a beautiful piece of hardware, but if they can't get the software on it, they can't get the software they want on it easily, the content they want on it easily, it starts to devolve almost immediately. You know, it's always like, where are the apps? So, for example, the Palm Pre and the WebOS, fantastic platform, fantastic device. Where are the apps? Where are the apps? Where are the apps? Oh, sorry, we didn't get the SDK out. Took them forever. It almost destroyed that platform to the point that it had to be sold off. So that is the leg up that Apple has, and that is also the leg up that the Kindle has, because, gosh, it is easy to get another book on your Kindle.
You wrote let's move on. We're going to talk about violent video games. Supreme Court is currently considering the California adult-only video game law, trying to decide, as you say, Lance, in your editorial in PC Magazine, whether video games are publications or creations of art like movies and newspapers and protected by the First Amendment, or more like alcohol and cigarettes, something that minors have to be protected from.
Yeah, it's a tough thing because I'm aware. You know, there's a lot of gaming that goes on in my house. I've seen it all. I've watched my son.
Do you let your son's 15. Do you let him play anything he wants?
Pretty much now.
Yeah, me too.
We started very controlled, especially because he started gaming, you know, he was 8, 9, and he was playing some of the games. And what I remember, no exaggeration, when he first got his GameCube, I picked up Rogue Warrior. And I was afraid to let him play it because he was like 8 and it was teen.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know what's going to be on there.
Right.
It's Star Wars, but I don't know. It's rated teen. So I played it. There was nothing.
Right.
And then as he got older, Halo, same thing. It was his first sort of mature game, and I played it, didn't see anything, gave it to him. So he's almost 16 now, obviously knows a lot more. But these games let you do all sorts of things, free play. You know, as I mentioned,
I remember when Grand Theft Auto 4 came out, I told my son, okay, you can play it, but don't hurt anybody. Wander around, enjoy the game. You can do some missions, but you know, can you not do any carjacking or beating on people?
Yeah, it pretty much
work.
gets out of hand. I stand over his shoulders. I'm like, why did you shoot that person? He goes, what? He goes, it's a video game. Like, he understands that.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's people who are in the camp who say that young minds cannot differentiate between fantasy and reality, and will start to think that they can act in the real world as they do in the gaming world. I guess I'm on the other side of that. You know, I know that my son plays these games. I know he does crazy things because the worlds allow him to do that. And then he just goes back to being himself.
I don't think it's going to make him a serial killer or a scumbag, but I guess you could make the argument that it might desensitize you to violence.
You know, and that's a really good question, but I think our world may desensitize us to violence. There's a lot going on out there. I feel like video games are the least of our problems. But, you know, the point is that California's got this law in the books. It's up for the Supreme Court to decide whether or not this is a law that stays. And I had the conversation with my family. It's like, well, it's California. What does that matter? But that once they step over that threshold, if California law stays and say it's constitutionally correct, other states will pass laws, similar laws. And then the question you have to ask is, now, what else gets controlled? Right. I still have the right to take my tween or even my child to an R-rated movie, because I know they're going to say the F word. That's why they rated it R, but everything else is fine. But do I have the right, or will it become illegal? And that's my concern, and that's why I don't want the law involved with this. This is always going to be about parental control. It's always going to be about the conversation and how you stay in lockstep with your own child to know exactly what they're doing in technology.
You guys agree?
Well,
I don't have any kids, so I can't really talk from experience.
Who wouldn't agree? Come on, we don't want the government to say this is art, this isn't art, this is allowed, this is not allowed. You know, all you have to do is say, well, what if it were movies? Would you say that it's okay, just as you said, Lance, for the government to say that you can't see this movie? No.
And you know, Electronic Arts made that same point in response to this legislation. They had their blogger write this post saying, you know what, the person primarily backing this is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is in some of the most violent movies of all time. Yeah. This is just, you know, bizarre. You can watch him kill somebody, but you can't act it out on a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to say, the industry is not doing itself any favors right now. So we've got the electronic, we've got the ESRB who does the ratings, right? And they actually put a lot of detail on the back side of these games. The front side, they all say mature, so they all seem the same. They're not the same. But I went to GameStop.com to just sort of see, well, what is the real world out there? What are other people seeing maybe who aren't as familiar with the gaming world? And if you go in and if you go into role-playing games, you see the very first page, the full first page of games, all the most popular games, the games they're pushing, are the mature games. Next page, most of them mature. It gives you the sense that all the games are mature, and it's kind of this, gaming is this dark world. And that's really not the case. But good luck on GameStop finding an organization of games by rating. They don't even show you that. So, you know, why not make it so it's not so scary for these people who are trying to legislate instead of have a conversation?
Lou in our chat room said playing too much Super Mario made him want to use shrooms.
You know, I have a hard time feeling really strongly about this issue, but not for the reasons I think most people, you know, I mean, I think most people especially kind of in our industry, have very strong feelings about this, and you know, kind of like how you became really animated right there, Leo. I think my personal issue with this is just that, you know, I don't have kids, but if I did have kids, you know, I wouldn't want them be playing any video games, like, at all. Like,
you know,
I think that there's just
here,
way
would say,
too much of that in general.
The people know the difference between cartoon violence and real violence. Video games are not so realistic now; they can't tell the difference.
It's not so much about that. I just think that, you know, kids right now are really deprived of you know, non-electronic activities.
Well, that's true. But, but that's not up to the Supreme Court or the state of California.
I would be locking
what are we doing?
You know what? And when I was a kid, I did two things. I read and I watched TV. That was what I was doing.
Right.
You know, there weren't really video games for me to play. I was reading all the time, or I was watching I Dream of Jeannie.
Would you
or
prefer that your kids play a game than watch I Dream of Jeannie?
What's that?
Would you prefer your kids played a game than watch I Dream of Jeannie?
I mean, I think that's a false choice. I would prefer they read a book.
Well, okay, but let's say they're going to spend some time on the screen. Isn't it better that they actually be doing something, even if it's just video gaming? Than...
I mean, maybe. I don't know. You know, I played a lot of video games as a kid, and, you know, I don't really regret that. But at the same time, I do kind of wish that I was outside more. You know, I do kind of wish I read more.
Oh, so this is really about you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
just looking back, you know, I kind of wish that, you know, my parents had taken more interest to say, you know, get off the video game and go read a book, or go, you know, go outside and play with your friends.
And what would you have said? I say that to my son. We have the conversation. I go, okay, you've been in the house now for 3 hours playing this game. Let's go. Come on, get out. You know, and a lot of times it's an argument. I mean, I do try and drag him out. I drag my daughter outside as often as possible. But, you know, the lure of the digital world, the lure of the bits and bytes is so strong for everybody.
It's very compelling.
It is very compelling. And we get... You know, the other thing, and I don't want to go off on a really crazy tangent, but the socialization of technology is part of the reason that we're all spending so much time on it. So now everything we do, including gaming, you know, my son, when he plays on the Xbox 360, is playing Xbox Live. He's dealing with people all around the world, people he deals with every day. He's dealing with his friends. He's talking to them. They're playing. They're actually in group games.
Yeah, but that's not socialization. That's not socializing, is it?
Well, it is to them. It is to them. That's the thing. It's socialization. The definition of it, I think, is changing. But you know, every piece of technology we have has a social component now. So we have heads down. We're not going outside. We're doing these things all day long.
Well, and it's not just the kids. I mean, we're tweeting and Facebooking and.
That's right. So I kind of agree with Ryan that too much of a good thing is still too much. That's true.
I think we're all agreed though that the state or the federal government shouldn't be the ones who tell us go outside and play.
I know I am.
Paul Thurrott told me that when he got to 11 Prestige in Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, the final achievement, or I guess he got every achievement, and he got the final achievement said, okay, you're done. You got every achievement. Go outside. Play. You're done. Stop. I don't think it worked, but... Hey, no white iPhone. Apple finally admits that for whatever reason they can't make a white iPhone. They say... sorry, we're not going to have one for, even though they promoted it, they talked about it, not till next spring. Ryan, do you have any insight as to what happened?
And nothing more than what's been written out there, and there's been a lot of stuff. There was reports.
I mean,
that,
this is like the most minor of things, let's face it. But
yes. Yes. So it might be worth a recap, because there have been a lot of reports as to why it's not coming. One was that light coming in through the white casing, through the white film on the inside of the casing, was interfering with the camera. One was that they couldn't get the home button in just the right color. One was that they couldn't get the paint for the white casing in just the right color. There's just been a variety of reports. I don't really know what it is.
I don't
honestly,
even care. But
I don't really care.
There are some people who are actually waiting for a white iPhone. That's the fun.
I mean, keep waiting if you want. Just, I at this point, I would just wait for the next iPhone. I'd wait for the iPhone 5.
I'm waiting for Duke Nukem forever. So, some people just like to wait.
That was really coming, man.
I think it's some combination of the magical part of the phone and white. They put those two together, it probably causes a black hole or something like that.
There weren't enough unicorn tears to make it.
Yes. The really frustrating thing, though, is all these Apple employees have them. Those are the phones that you could get as an Apple employee. And so anytime I see a white iPhone, and I do see them in San Francisco, that's an Apple employee.
Wow. And a few people like Walt Mossberg, I think, has one. Somebody just said Stephen Fry has one. So there's a few special
Oh,
people.
the special people.
Special people have white iPhones.
Steve's VIPs.
It's like having a black American Express card. It just
Right.
you know you're a special.
They had Johnny Ive paint them himself.
You know, you probably could paint it.
Yeah. Isn't there that company that does console systems?
Yeah, just get some white nail
white
polish.
laminate. You don't have to paint it. White laminate, little X-Acto blade. You're done.
Yeah, or the plastic vinyl that they use to line drawers.
That's actually a good point,
Colorware.
though. Colorware might be a good way to do it. I actually, when the iPhone 3 and the 3G came out, I bought both of those in white. But what I liked about it was that the back was white and the front was black.
Right.
And I
have one of
actually
those.
I like that because even though you didn't really think about it, the front being black kind of
Kinda knew where
hid
you
all of
were.
the sensors on the front of the face, and it made a lot of like the details of the mechanics up there a little bit less obvious. On the white phone, it looks kind of crazy because at the top you've got the proximity sensor, the camera, the earpiece, and the whole thing looks like a really old school iPod in not the best way. If they'd have
And
actually
if
made the
you're
front-
watching a movie, the white tends to distract. It tends to stand out.
You know what's
I want a translucent
didn't.
phone. I want it translucent. I want it see-through. I have a watch. This watch is see-through. You see that? You can actually see the inside of it. That's what I want.
Is that an Accutron by Bulova? Did you get that in 1974?
It's a Kenneth Cole watch, but it's self-winding. You can see right through it.
Remember that Bulova? They had the tuning fork in there, and you could see the.
Yes. You can hear it. You put it up to your ear, you would hear that weird sound.
I'll tell you where I'd be really pissed off, and there's a lawsuit. I imagine this will end up being a class action lawsuit about the iPhone 3G owners who upgraded to OS 4.0 and basically turned their phone into a turtle, into a just horrible, useless. And there's no downgrade. Apple said they fixed it with a 4.1. I don't see any evidence. Wouldn't you be furious if you had a 3G and you upgrade? See, you guys, you're all using iPhone 4s or whatever, so you don't care. But I just think it's terrible.
No, I gifted my 3G to my dad, and he's having the same problem.
I think it's awful. I think Apple should be really censored over this. This is not good.
Well, there is
Censured.
that class action lawsuit that's been brought against them, so they'll have to explain this somehow and hopefully bring a fix.
On the one hand, they are supporting their phones further into the past than other companies are. I mean, you look at the T-Mobile G1. That is still stuck on Android 1.6.
But they made them. Yes, I mean, so you can't update the G1 to Android 2.2. But Apple kind of pushed this update on 3G.
No, I know. Yeah. I agree. I'm not giving Apple an out here. I'm just saying, again, on the one hand, they're supporting further into the past, which is a good thing, and they are the company who single-handedly said, no, you are entitled to phone upgrades in the future, and you should be able to have the latest version of the operating system running on your older phone, and that shouldn't cost you any money, and that's not something that the carrier should be involved with. But on the other hand, they clearly haven't fulfilled that promise here. I mean, they needed to devote the resources to the iOS team to make sure that 3G performance is good, and they have not done that.
All right, enough
I don't
Apple.
know how they made that mistake.
Go ahead.
I don't know how they made the mistake. I don't know. I believe they said that this was something people could do. And, I guess, as usual with software, when people put things on the phone, there are variables. The thing about Apple sometimes in these situations is that they tend to ignore, obfuscate, whatever they can until they finally have to go, yeah, we made a mistake here. And, when you have a very successful product like the iPhone 3GS, and you're going to have a lot of users who get very excited about the next thing and then the features that you're going to get from this upgrade, and then you punk them in this way, you're going to have problems. And
this is what was asked me. We were talking about this on a radio show in Los Angeles. The host, Bill Handel, I said, well, he's a lawyer. Did Apple do this on purpose to force people to upgrade? And I said, well, how do you know? I don't know. I don't think. I said, is it relevant? He said, yeah, it's relevant. Hell yeah, it's relevant. It's the big question. Is this kind of some sort of sleazy attempt to force people to upgrade? I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
There's that old phrase, never attribute to malice what can be easily attributed to incompetence. And this is just, I think they just didn't spend the time to get it right, and that sucks. But I think there are a lot better ways to force people to upgrade to the iPhone 4 than making the iPhone 3G run a little bit slower.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're going to take a break. We come to Microsoft and Google. Google in a border dispute of all things. An international dispute. Before we talk about that, I would like to mention our friends at Audible. These guys do such a great job of making audio books for everybody. What the heck happened there? Let me push that button again. I was sorry about that, Lance. I didn't mean to turn you into an Audible ad. If you're listening to a podcast, presumably you like listening. Audible is a great way to get a lot more reading done. You know, as we all get busy, this is what you were talking about, Lance. We start, watching more TV, or working harder, and we don't have time to stop and smell the roses. Read a book. Audible.
I have roses in this room.
You have? Are you smelling them?
That's right now.
Right now, he's smelling the roses, ladies and gentlemen. Audible.com gives you a chance to read again. I have to say, I am a huge fan of Audible. I've been a member since 2001. I've read over 400 books. Those are books probably I wouldn't have had time to read if I had an actual paper book or even a Kindle book, because I listen in the car. I listen at the gym. I listen when I'm doing housework. I listen when I'm walking the dog. I even listen in the hot tub. Oh, look, Rendezvous with Rama. One of the things Audible's done, they know that they know that a lot of the great science fiction classics haven't yet been made into audiobooks. They just weren't made into audiobooks in the original form. And so they have a program, they call it Audible Frontiers, in which they record these great classic books. Arthur C. Clarke's absolutely wonderful Rendezvous with Rama just came out on Audible Frontiers. Now, this could be your book, free. They also have Childhood's End. Now, let's do a two-book deal, because this is a good one. If you haven't read Childhood's End or Rendezvous with Rama, or you haven't read them in a while, they're out now in audio, and you can get them absolutely free if you go to audible.com/twit2. Audible.com/twit2. Here's a little bit of Childhood's End. Eric Michael Summerer.
In the first year of their coming, the advent of the overlords had made less difference to the pattern of human life than might have been expected. Their shadow was everywhere, but it was an unobtrusive shadow. Though there were few...
Oh, is this a good book? And I won't tell you about the... Well, I won't tell you. I won't spoil it. Let's just say read this book. You'd get two of them now. Audible.com/twit2. What you'll be doing is signing up for the Platinum account. That's 2 books a month. But the first month's free, and you can cancel at any time, and those books are yours to keep forever. Forever. So, audible.com/twit2, and that would be 2 great books, Childhood's End and Rendezvous with Rama. There's other great stuff. The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury also just came out now on audio. Audible.com, but it's not just science fiction, it's nonfiction. It's current bestsellers. It's Baba Booey's biography by Gary Del Bate. If you're a Howard fan, you might want to hear it. They call me Baba Booey. I think I'll skip that one if you don't mind. But that's the point, is everything is here. My next read, by the way, Keith Richards' Life. I got it. I downloaded it. 23 hours of, and then Mick said to me, look at that bird over there. I'm going to... Never mind. Audible.com/twit2. They play on the iPhone, the iPad, the iPod, of course, on your Zune. Android phones. There's a great app for Android and Apple phones that lets you listen to any of your iPod books. And don't forget the big half-off sale going on right now. Audible.com. Audible.com/twit2 for your first 2 books absolutely free. Then, once you're a member, you can go get the half-price books. We thank them for their support of This Week in Tech and the entire TWiT network. So, a little border dispute for Google. Google says it's the U.S. government's fault. It's Google Maps. I never really thought about this, but when you start publishing maps, dude, you got a responsibility. Wall Street Journal says that Nicaragua and Costa Rica are fighting over the border, and a Nicaraguan commander justified a raid into Costa Rica by using Google Maps. This is invasion by Googling. The sovereignty apparently is in dispute. Apparently, the foreign minister of Costa Rica has written to Google asking for changes. Spokesperson for Google says, we got the data from the U.S. government, but it's justification for you could have an international incident by following the Google map.
You know what I would do if I was Google is I would actually just take this area. I would make a big, like, kind of hashed out Yeah, blur. Yeah, blur. They just have no firm line.
Do what they do in Germany.
Let the politicians sort it out.
That's what they did. You can request in Germany to have your house blurred in Street View.
Yeah.
Jeff Jarvis calls it Blurmany.
The actual official policy for Google on Maps and Earth is to use red dotted lines for disputed borders.
Oh.
So they may end up doing that if they don't come to a conclusion here.
They should have read Google News. Then they would have known it was in dispute. Or paying attention.
That's the problem. One hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing.
As usual.
Yeah.
There's a lot of data they got to manage, and they are picking it up from sources. And if your source is wrong, you're going to be wrong. And the U.S. government is not always up to date. You know, I talk about one hand not knowing what the other is doing. All the data the U.S. government has about various things is typically in stovepipes. I mean, they don't share all that well. So I'm sure if we look hard enough, we can find other mistakes.
Hey, they got hit with something different just this past week. On Tuesday, a Fast Company writer discovered that Google pointed him to the wrong polling place in his neighborhood, so he didn't get to vote.
Wow.
That is correct. That is correct. They do that all the time. You know, I started collecting stories from people about the various wrong directions they got from Google Maps. One guy told me that he there was a truck, he had a big truck and he was delivering something and he had to go through this path and there was a bridge, but it was a bridge that was only big enough for a bicycle.
Well, how, come on. Look out your window, dude. So, by the way, Microsoft was quick to point out that Bing got it right. Oh, if they'd only followed Bing.
Well, it depends on whose version of right is actually right. So
that's right.
You know, I have a very hard time believing that that Google is in any way responsible for an international incident, though. I mean, you don't think the people down there in Costa Rica and Nicaragua know damn well what the border is supposed to be? I mean, saying that Google Maps was the reason why they invaded, I mean, come on.
We weren't invading. We're just taking a trip. Right. It was a family trip.
Please.
No big deal. Android turns 3. It's this week. It was his 3rd anniversary of Android's release. It took him a little longer to get a phone out. The G1 didn't come out right away. But on November 5th, 2007, Google announced the, what do they call it, Open Handset Alliance and Android. And now we're really close, I think, to version 3.0. Gingerbread should be out pretty soon. Have any of you played with a gingerbread phone yet?
It's on lockdown right now, isn't it?
Is it?
I don't know if anybody's really.
They got the giant gingerbread guy in the Googleplex.
Right.
And then you got Honeycomb after that one. And
I have a question for you guys about gingerbread versus honeycomb, because we've been discussing this. Gingerbread, some people are saying, is designed directly, especially for tablets. But then what's honeycomb? Because I actually thought honeycomb was the one that was designed for tablets. And when I talked to Lenovo, they seem to be under that impression too, because they basically wanted to wait for honeycomb before they made a Lenovo tablet.
That's what I've been hearing. That gingerbread is not going to be tablet optimized, and that honeycomb is going to be the one that they're pushing tablets on.
For all the people making Android tablets, I mean, a lot of them are running Froyo 2.2.
Yeah, well, I mean, Google has been pretty active in discouraging people from putting
they
Android
said
right
that's
now.
not our tablet operating system. It's not.
It's not.
Optimized.
I mean, it's not optimized for tablets. That's it's just not.
Right.
They'll fix it. They'll get there. It's just going to take them a little while.
I've gotten the impression from talking to some OEMs, including some of the guys at Samsung, that they don't know what's on the roadmap for Android. Samsung with the Galaxy S or the Galaxy Tab built out like their own apps, and they did their own customizations to make it look fine on a 7-inch screen. But when I asked them about when they would be supporting, this rumored Google tablet OS, I mean, maybe they were just being coy, but they seem like, we'll work with them, and we have in the past, so we'll just see what they come up with.
Yeah, I think it's more about plumbing. With Android, Gingerbread, and Honeycomb, it's about the right plumbing for tablet functionality, for bigger gestures, for as many as like 10 fingers on the screen. Everybody's probably going to build more customized interfaces for these tablets. But I think the big question for us is, what do we end up seeing at CES 2011? Will we see a lot of gingerbread tablets? Will we see a smattering of honeycomb? Will we see all
God, you guys
Froyo
are
because
making me
that's
so
ready
hungry.
and people are gonna go with that? What's that?
Nice.
No, I'm not kidding. Get me some chocolate now.
You're hungry. I'm hungry.
So what do you think we'll see at CES? And what do you, has anybody played with the new Samsung Tab?
Taking
it's
a look
nice.
at it.
On
Slippery.
2.2. It's slippery.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
Slippery. Get back in.
Slippery.
It's does it work all right? 2.2. Do the apps look okay? Do they scale well to that 7-inch screen? How's it work?
They didn't have a lot of apps that were actually designed for the 7-inch screen yet, so I think that was kind of coming. It looked fine. It worked. It was responsive. It looked okay. I felt like it showed tremendous potential, but I'm not a tremendous fan of 7-inch tablets. I don't think that's the right size.
You agree with Steve Jobs? It's not a good size.
Yeah, I've said all along. I mean, in fact, I wrote a column that said a 7-inch iPad is a stupid idea because
well,
I
Steve
knew they
agrees.
wanted to do- Yeah.
Or he doesn't. It's hard to tell. Sometimes when he says we'll never do that, it means they're working on it right now. Why is 7 not a good size? The iPad is what, 10, 9?
Right, 9.7
9.7.
or something
Okay,
like that.
almost 10.
And the Kindles are sort of about 6 to 7 inches. I think that they're closer to book size. I just feel like if you're going to go for a tablet, which is a full function device, you want something big enough that you can put both hands on the screen and type. So it can be a productivity device. You can show larger images. You can draw on the screen. And you can just get more done with a 9.7 inch than you do with a 7-inch device, which kind of tries to split the difference. But you don't. I just don't feel like you gain that much. It was interesting that Steve Jobs did all that math with the amount of screen space you actually lose by going
he said
down
it's 50%.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. So what can I say? I own both a Kindle and an iPad, and I read on my Kindle, and I do a ton of other stuff on my iPad. I would not be happy if I had to, for example, draw on just a 7-inch screen. I'm so glad they made it at the size that they did.
Have you seen the Dell? Now the Dell Streak is 5 inches, which I guess if 7
the
is
Dell Streak is so stupid. We have a test unit in our office downtown, and I can't figure out what someone would use it for. And they've put a decent amount into this Dell. I mean, they have a stand at all the Best Buys showing it off, like the multimedia magic of the Dell Streak. And I don't know what to say about that thing.
Yeah, you think the 7-inch screen size is not the sweet spot? Try Dell Streak sometime.
I've got
that thing will make you cry.
Well, they're marketing it as a phone, and it's too big for a phone.
Yeah,
They
it's too
show
big for a
guy
phone.
holding
It's
it
too
up
small for a
against his
tablet.
head.
It is
It's his
the
Dell
sweet
thing.
spot of suck.
I love the Dell Streak ad because when they're walking around, it looks like they just got something that's a little too big in their hand. It's like something's wrong. You've got a phone that's like swollen.
That coat's too big for that guy.
Well, it's not a great ad anyway. I don't know what's going on. It seems to be repeating itself. What is going on?
Wow.
Yeah, that's really unpleasant, isn't it? See, there she is with her big, swollen phone. I don't know why it sounds
wrong.
So it sounds wrong. Oh, you know why? I opened like 18 copies of it.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. Look at that. Oh, look at all. No wonder it's slow. Okay, close. There we go.
Hey, Leo.
Yeah.
Leo, I'm about to turn into a pumpkin.
All right, Lance Ulanoff, anything you want to say before you go?
You know what? Stay tuned to PCMag.com because we got the best of the year coming up. Very big story. We're going to name all the products we loved from 2010.
Love that. Sounds great. And Lance, come visit us. We'll be at CES too, and we'd love to do more with you at CES.
Okay, I'll see you guys there.
That'd be great. Thank you, Lance Ulanoff. While Lance is taking off, let's see this giant swollen phone ad here.
Oh my God.
Everything looks
That's
wrong.
what she said.
Everything looks wrong in this ad. See how big that thing is? I don't know. See, I like my Droid X. It's a 4.3. Is 5 just a little too big?
They should have done in this ad what Apple did in the original iPhone ads, which was to have somebody with a giant hand holding the device to make it look not so
then it doesn't look so big. That looks huge.
They needed giant hand models. What they had there was people with regular size hands and a device that looks like it is comically oversized.
Yeah, it looks like.
But everyone wearing trench coats so that they could fit it in the pocket.
Yeah,
exactly. Nobody has any real pockets. They can slip it in their giant trench coats.
It just looks wrong. I think this ad is a mistake. Although I wouldn't mind a big screen, I guess.
But there's that point where it becomes too big, and
so you're saying
not good for phones.
See, I haven't held it, so both of you agree this is a crappy idea.
It is not. It's not good. It's not my phone. I love a big screen as much as anybody. I love the Droidex. I love the Evo. I think those phones are fantastic. Those are really at the limit.
This is as big as you can get. In fact, that's what a lot of reviewers said. This is as big as you can get. Almost too big is what they say. Almost too big.
It's right. It really skirts that line. You get any bigger, and then it starts. The human anatomy starts conflicting with the device itself.
Do my hands look? I see. They should have used me. I could be a giant hand model. Look at that. That doesn't look so big.
No comment on that one.
I put it next to my head, and I have such a massive melon that it actually looks like
some pretty big mitts.
Yeah, I got big mitts.
Leo, giant hand model or giant hand model?
Giant hand model. Google finally pulled the plug on Facebook. Google saying, look, Facebook, it's a one-way street. We pump information into you, and you don't give us any information back. So finally, they addressed this by changing their contact API so that Facebook could no longer scrape Google contacts for information. Was this the right thing to do?
I think Facebook. I think Google needs Facebook more than Facebook needs Google in that respect.
Yeah.
A lot of people have multiple email accounts. Gmail users tend to be. This is a blanket generalization, but I would say, like, if you have @gmail.com at the end of your name, you're probably a little more tech savvy than someone who's still rocking a Yahoo or Hotmail account. And I would guess that the majority of those people already have Facebook accounts. So this isn't really going to be hurting too many people.
So when you do the look for friends thing, it used to be you could supply your Gmail address on the look for friends thing.
If you swap these guys out in this situation and it was Google scraping or crawling through Facebook and Facebook shut them down, I mean, I don't think that anyone would feel like there was some love lost there.
Right.
It's these guys have their data, and Facebook, I think, is a little bit more stingy with that data than most. I mean, if you look at Facebook's export tool, I mean, they just released that. Like, in terms of how long they've been around, like, they just got to this in like the last 8 months, I think, or 6 months, that you could export all of your Facebook data. To them, it's they really are like a one-way street. They want everything coming into them. And they want to build their own internet.
That's what it looks like. These most recent announcements for Facebook Places, and then the Facebook deals, and even the new API, where the location API now you can write to. It's almost as if they're saying to Foursquare and Gowalla and Yelp and Looped, just come on in. We'll be your big umbrella for location services. You can use us. And of course, Foursquare is not going to say no. They have to, because so many of their users are. Now, Foursquare continues to grow. In fact, Foursquare is
I don't know that they have to.
You think it's a mistake for them to work with Places?
Do you think that they have to, though? I mean,
I think they do. I think they do, because
Twitter didn't have to work with Facebook early on. I mean, Twitter, was able, and granted, Facebook was not at the place that they are today when Twitter was getting started, in 2006, 2007. But Facebook was still really big even then, and Twitter did just fine not having to build everything off of Facebook.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It just seems
Foursquare
like
has actually been a holdout on all of this. For these new Places announcements, they're saying they're not buying into the whole we'll completely write everything in. I mean, you can post a Foursquare check-in to your Facebook profile, but then that brings you back to the Foursquare page. So I think Foursquare maybe will hold out for as long as they can.
So I got to tell you that the whole, like, when Facebook announced Places and then they had Foursquare go up and Foursquare didn't say anything. I mean, they were there symbolically, but they didn't have any announcements or anything of substance to say. I mean, that actually spoke volumes to me. You know, they are at best uneasy allies. I think, you know, Foursquare would.
Well, I'm sure they're uneasy.
They would be not. Yeah. Well, and even allies, I'm not even sure of. I would really call.
Well,
I mean, Foursquare would be really foolish, I think, to.
Well, but when you check in, when you check in now on Foursquare, if you use the Foursquare app on Facebook, it'll show up on your Facebook. And when they announced the fact that they now have a Write API, I think Foursquare was on that list of, maybe that was fallacious, but was on that screen of logos of people who will be using the Write API, which means you check in on Foursquare and it shows up, your location shows up now properly in Facebook. It's as if you checked in Places.
Sure. It's just how much of your business do you want to depend on Facebook? I mean, do you want to be Zynga, where 99% of your business and revenue is based on Facebook, and then if Facebook pulls the plug, then you're basically dead? Well,
you don't. You're right. You don't want to, but you may not. But you've also got to play. It's a very interesting game. You've got to play this game, right?
It's really tricky. I mean, you know, I see this all the time, and there's so many new startups that come up and they try to base all their stuff on Facebook, and I totally understand why. I mean, it's a huge opportunity, but at the same time, it is the same problem that any company has when they are beholden to someone else's platform. I mean, if you're going to be an iPhone app software developer and that's all you're going to do, you know, huge opportunity there. But if Apple decides that they don't like your app for whatever stupid reason, fair or unfair, you're screwed. Your business is done.
So if Facebook came to GDGT and said, we would like to incorporate your want pages somehow into Facebook, you'd still be a standalone entity, but we would just like to give you access to 500 million users.
Well, technically, I already have that. I mean, Facebook is an open platform. We have a Facebook app insofar as when you add a product to your want list, you can post that status update onto Facebook. And there are also, you know, semi-open standards like Facebook's Open Graph Protocol, where if you hit a Facebook like button on a page, like you know, a gadget page for the iPhone 4 or whatever, it will show product data and stuff in your Facebook stream.
So they're co-opting you. I mean, if you're a blog,
but none of our stuff is dependent on that. And if Facebook shut off the stream tomorrow, I frankly wouldn't care, because none of my business is dependent on that. But you know,
you're going to have a like button. You're going to have Facebook Connect. You're going to have all those pipes into Facebook, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's the, you know, the risk that you take these days with doing a lot of this integration, and it's, you know, it's tricky. Like I get a lot of people kind of who think it's really weird that I have a web startup now where the only login mechanism is not Facebook, right? Like you can log in with a gadget username, or you can log in with Facebook. A lot of companies now, all you can do is log in with Facebook. That to me is weird, that Facebook would own your entire user set and that you wouldn't even be giving people the choice to not use Facebook.
Well, you wouldn't want that, obviously.
Well, but a lot of people are doing that now.
Yeah.
A shocking number of new companies do that. They just say, okay, Facebook, you're the login and identity system. And that was what Facebook's announcement was this week, was mobile single sign-on.
Right. So what I agree with you. Facebook is making a grab for the internet, essentially. They would like it all to come through Facebook. And it's a honeypot, because I mean, that's 500 million users they can offer you, potentially. And boy, we all know, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the like button, it's much more successful than any other kind of social sharing. A like button on your blog post is going to drive a lot of traffic, is it not?
Well, I think it depends on your site and your audience. I mean, we get more traffic from Twitter than Facebook.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, we're also obviously a lot more geeky, and I think that, you know, geeks tend to prefer Twitter to Facebook in general. I mean, right. I know
Jimmy in the chat room is saying like is the new link. Oh, I hope that's not true. I would be very scary.
Well, I mean, Facebook's strategy there is not all that different from Google. I mean, they're polar opposites of doing the same thing. Google goes out and grabs everything, and then Facebook just waits for you to come to them. They're both still keeping records of everything on the internet. It's just a different way of going about doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Jamie Thomas is back in the news again. She's the single mom who shared 24 songs on Kazaa, was found guilty of that. Music industry said, we tried to settle with her for $5,000. She just ignored us, so we had to take her to court. And they keep giving her different awards, and it goes on, more trial. Well, on Wednesday, a federal jury said, Jamie Thomas, you owe $62,500 for every song you shared on the internet. That's a total of $1.5 million. This is the third jury to consider damages. I don't know if it's over yet. She says, I can't pay anything. Zero. You're going to get zero.
Yeah, good luck getting that money.
Any amount I pay to them is money that I could use to feed my children. Any amount I could pay to them is money I could use to clothe my kids and pay my mortgage so my kids have a place to sleep. She's got a point. On the other hand,
I'd like to know how they land on these amounts per song. I mean, I saw in the story that the judge was... Well, yeah, the law says you can go up to 150,000 per song, according to the story. And I saw the RIAA was pushing for that, and the judge said no, that doesn't make sense. But even $62,500 per song, I can't. There is no song that takes that much money to create. So what does that number mean? I mean.
I agree.
You could buy a Mac Pro, you could buy the software used to create, you could buy all the instruments, and it won't come up to $62,000.
I agree.
Mark, is that the there you go, loss? Trying to apply logic to the record industry again.
In 2007,
good luck with that, my friend.
The first jury, and this I thought was a travesty, awarded the music industry $9,000, $9,250 a song, $222,000. The judge said, I gave the jury incorrect instructions. So another jury found her guilty again. Then they said $80,000 a song. The judge said that figure is monstrous and shocking and reduced the penalty to $54,000. The RIAA rejected that decision. They said they'd settle for $25,000. She said, no way. So trial number 3, and now she owes $1.5 million. I just don't. It seems like just. Is this the way? Is this the way to save the music industry? Really?
No, it's not. It's. They're doing it because it's symbolic. They're doing it because that's the only stand that they have. That's
they're doing it to scare people. They're hoping that you'll hear this and say,
yeah, they're trying to make an example out of these people. But you know what? All they're doing is demonizing themselves. And all this does is make me want to steal from them.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it just makes me hate them.
It just makes you hate them.
It's a sick abuse of the system, and you know, look, they're going to get what's coming to them. You know, they're already getting what's coming to them. The bomb went off 10 years ago, and maybe the shockwave still hasn't fully hit them yet. But you know, if these record label executives and the RIA thinks that they're going to have a very profitable and lucrative future, I'm sorry. It's
well,
over.
This particular case is a remnant of an old failed strategy from several years ago. I mean, the RIA isn't doing this anymore. This was just one that wouldn't go away.
Okay. What do they do now?
Now they go after
LimeWire. They go after the source.
Yeah, LimeWire. Yeah.
And they put them out of business. We're going to talk about a couple more things before we wrap this puppy up. We've got Ryan Block here from Gadget.com. And their big event coming up Friday in San Francisco. If you just go to gdgt.com, will you find out about that, Ryan?
Yeah, we've got a big banner up at the top. If you're in the Bay Area, we would love to have you, though.
Yeah. These are great
I'm
events.
talking to you specifically, Leo.
I know. I'm in the Bay Area. I really want to go. I will. I
just try to make it out. But if not, you guys are going to be live streaming it, which I'm really excited about.
We are. We're going to broadcast it. But that shouldn't stop anybody from going. In fact, if you go, you'll be on the live stream. So there.
Yeah, no, you're going to want to go because you're not going to be able to get everything that you're going to be able to get by being there. I'm not just talking about like the shirts and stuff like that, or the swag, or the ability to win a ton of really awesome gadgets. But I mean, you can actually go play with the gadgets.
This is where you could see the streak if you wanted to, for instance, or no streaks.
I don't know if the streak is going to be there.
How about the Samsung? Well, you have the Samsung tablet, the Tab.
Yes, Samsung should be there. I don't know if they're going to be bringing the Tab.
Windows Phone 7. We can see the Focus probably, right? Yep.
Windows Phone 7 is going to be there.
Do you have one of those yet, Ryan? Do you like that?
I do. I think it's actually great. I think it's a really strong
I'm going to have to wait in line tomorrow because no pre-orders for AT&T.
I don't know if it's the wait in line worthy phone of the season, but it is definitely worth checking out. Absolutely.
Yeah, you might be by yourself out there, Leo.
You think? I'll be the one guy in line?
You will be the line.
Well, I better bring a camera. Actually, you know, I waited in line for the Droid X, and I got there early, right when they opened. And it's a good thing I did. It took me 2 hours to get the phone, and people who came in an hour after they opened the doors couldn't get a Droid X for a long time. There was a huge demand for that. iPhone quality demand. You don't think that's going to happen with the Samsung Focus? First of all, it's AT&T, which
yeah, AT&T. I think if it was on Verizon, there may have been more hype behind it, but I kind of don't think this will be the type of phone that will draw huge crowds and stop shopping malls from opening.
Oh well, I'll be in line. I'll bring a flip cam. So we will talk about that. It's kind of an end of the line for an American icon. We'll talk about that. More to come, and Steve Ballmer cashing in. Could it be the beginning of the end for the Big B? More to come with our guests, Mark Milian from CNN. I like saying that, Mark.
Me too.
Certain ring to it.
I like it when you say it. I think I'm going to make it my voicemail.
CNN's Mark Milian reporting in.
Ooh, music to my ears.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good idea, Mark. Hey, Leo, can we get you to do our voicemail messages?
Sure. I'd love to.
Oh, that would be so awesome.
Yeah.
I'd be like, it's like, wait, don't tell me.
Right.
You know, the show.
Yeah, Carl Castle does
what
it.
you win.
If you win, you get Carl Castle doing your voicemail message.
Exactly.
I'll do that for anybody. Carl Castle has to make a contest. I'll do it at anybody who wants. But before I do that,
you're going to regret that.
No, they just create one of those flash apps.
Yeah.
Like they did with the Old Spice guy, where you can go on and punch in your phone number, and then it will assemble.
My name is Mark, and this is my voicemail. You just call 555-1212. Before I do that, I do want to mention our good friends at Ford, the folks who make the incredible Ford Sync we talk so much about. I'm driving it every day. I drive my 2010 Mustang, and I love the Sync. But the other day when I was at Blog World, I drove the Ford Edge, and now my wife is killing me. She says, I got to have an Edge. I said, I just bought you a car. She said, no, I want an Edge. I want an Edge. It's the most high-tech Ford out there. It grabs attention as well as it grabs the road. Let me tell you, beautiful, swoopy-doopy. Look at it, the beautiful lines of the Edge. But when you get inside, you just get this feeling, you know, the fit, the finish, it's solid, beautiful instrument panel. Looks actually kind of like my Mustang, obviously influenced by it. The center stack, the door trim, and, of course, the My Ford Touch, which puts 2 screens behind the wheel and then another big screen in the center console. Oh, I was just talking to somebody who got an Edge. They tried a lot of cars. I said, why'd you get the Edge? Just tell me, because I'm going to be talking about this on TWiT today. And they said the leg room in the second row. We tried them all, and it is the most comfortable in the back row. The available automatic Vista roof for the front and the fixed rear skylight for the back, so everybody gets to see the stars. Ambient lighting. The 2011 Edge has incredible V6 highway fuel efficiency. The advanced 3.5-liter TI VCT V6 engine. Big engine, 285 horsepower, but unsurpassed fuel economy in the class, 27 highway miles EP estimates per gallon. Then there's the sport model with 305 horsepower, 280 foot-pounds of torque. I don't know what that means, but I know it's good. 280 foot-pounds of torque. I might make that my handle on World of Warcraft. Hi. I'm tanking today. I'll be 280 foot-pounds of torque. Also, sport-tuned suspension, the 22-inch polished aluminum wheels. It's just great. The 8-inch touch screen, the My Ford Touch. If you've used Sync before, you'll know how great it is. If you haven't, you just have to try it. Here's what you do. You go, I got to warn you, you're going to fall in love with this vehicle. You go to your Ford dealer. You drive one this week. Say, I want to see the new 2011 Edge, and I want to try the Ford Touch. So you got this 2 screens, right? The left screen can display, and you can switch through it, or by voice you could tell it what to display. Fuel economy, mechanical status, settings, and information. On the right, actually, I saw a tachometer, too, so I think it does a tachometer. On the right, audio and entertainment, climate control, phone communications, available navigation, and then you have the 8-inch screen in the center stack that's like the map. Oh, man, I love it. You really feel like you are connected. And this one now has 2 USB hubs and an SD card slot. Isn't that great? Your car has an SD card slot. RCA jacks, too, for AV input. It's got the mobile in-car Wi-Fi hotspot capability. You can either install an air card through the USB or a broadband modem. It's got phone book contact photo download. I mean, it's just amazing what this will do. So when somebody rings, a picture shows up. I love that. Drive one this week at a Ford dealer near you. It's the most technological car Ford's ever made, and I think I'll be getting one. I have to say, I know I'm going to be getting one. My wife is going to make me get one. Mark Milian is here from CNN, the world's most important digital network. And from Gadget, Mr. Ryan Block. Ballmer sells a big chunk of stock. Now, Steve Ballmer is the number 2 shareholder at Microsoft. Bill Gates has a little more than 7% of Microsoft. Ballmer has a little more than 4%. Now, that 4% that Steve Ballmer has of Microsoft is worth, based on the most recent stock price, let me get the exact amount. He's got 4.2% of the company, $9.6 billion. So he sells a little bit. Sells 12% of his stock, his stake in Microsoft. That's worth. He's got $1.3 billion. He said, it's for tax planning and investments. I want to diversify my investments. But some say this may be an indication that Ballmer might be moving on. What do you think?
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe he's just got something personal going on. Maybe somebody's family is sick, or he's buying a house or something.
He wants to build a pool.
Yeah, that's right. You know, when someone gets sick in my family, I go and I take $1 billion out of the bank.
Wouldn't it be nice? And it's only 12%.
When I'm buying a new house, $1 billion, just
it adds
take it out of the
up.
bank.
It adds up. Yeah.
What kind of salary is he getting? He could be doing something similar to that. Those $1 salaries the job was pulling for a while. No?
So. No.
No, actually, Ballmer gets paid an actual salary. He does. He remember last year he got that. He had his budget. No, I'm sorry, not his budget. His bonus slashed heavily because of their failings in mobile.
But they still gave him the gold underwear.
Right.
Well, there you go. He had to make up for his bonus with these stock options.
There you go.
If I were Ballmer and I were thinking about leaving, I would actually not be taking a lot of stock off the table right now, because the next guy is surely going to do a better job is surely going to raise the stock price.
Now's the time to hold on to that, Steve. Retire and hold on.
Yes, if I were Steve and I were leaving, I would be keeping my money in the company.
Boy, you guys are both bloggers. This story just blew my mind. There's a print magazine called Cook's Source. I've actually bought copies of the magazine. It's a cooking magazine. Apparently, this magazine has some bad habits. A blogger who wrote a blog 5 years ago for a blog called Code Cookery says they stole her post and put it in the print magazine without telling her. The magazine has a circulation of 20,000. She said, this is news to me. I'd never even heard of the magazine. So the blogger, Monica Gaudio, contacted the editor of Cook's Source. I wish Lance were still here. I'd love to hear his opinion on this. To ask about the article. It was a history of apple pie and how it got in the magazine. At one point in the exchange, Gaudio said the editor asked her, what do you want? Gaudio said, I want an apology in the magazine on the Facebook page, and I want $130 that you're going to donate to the Columbia School of Journalism. 10 cents a word. The editor, who said that she has 3 decades of experience editing for The Village Voice, Connecticut Woman magazine, and other publications, responded that everything on the web is considered public domain. You should be happy we didn't just lift your whole article and put someone else's name on it.
Also wrong.
And she said the article was in very bad need of editing, and it's much better now than it was originally. In fact, we put so much time into rewrites, you should pay me.
Way to kick her while she's down.
It wasn't that well written.
Sleazy.
Is that creepy or what?
It's just hilarious because there's just nothing right about it. And it's almost cute how naive it is.
But that's what's great, because it's completely naive.
It's just like so wrong.
It's just like, it's like, I never heard it. What's this internet thing? Because, of course, immediately Gaudio goes public.
Yeah, and in conclusion, the sun wraps around the Earth.
Yes. The Earth. It's the center of the universe.
Yes.
So apparently the Facebook page has been flooded with thousands of derisive comments. The original page was hacked. The magazine's forced to relocate. If you look on Twitter on the hashtag not Cook's Source but Crooks Source, you'll see millions of tweets excoriating the magazine. I mean, they probably got more attention than they've ever had before. You know, I mean, this is like, so anyway, just you can't do that, folks. And by the way, everything on the internet is not public domain.
Yeah, back in the early days in Engadget, it always surprised me how many people would go out of their way to lift content, even when we were a really small publication. It was just constantly happening, especially because of RSS, because RSS makes it incredibly easy to steal other people's content. And so that was happening all the time. And it would show up in places you would never believe. I mean, it was never like it showed up in, established publications or whatever, but places where you wouldn't expect it to go that, didn't seem incredibly shady. And this is a pretty good example. I mean, there were a lot of instances.
This is a legitimate magazine, you see,
Yeah, it's very, very, very weird what people think about these things sometimes. It doesn't make any sense. And there's not a lot you can do about it, unfortunately. I mean, you can't have somebody arrested for that, right? I mean, you can file a lawsuit if you really want to, but have fun with that.
So I think this is a watershed. Verizon is going to. I've wondered this: who uses the yellow pages? Who uses the white pages? You still get it every year, dropped on your doorstep. I recycle it immediately. Verizon is finally stopping distribution of the white pages in Pennsylvania. They actually had to ask permission of the State Public Utility Commission. Verizon says if a customer specifically requests one, they can get it, and that's fine. There are probably some people who don't have internet access or whatever, and they may need a phone book. But why print a phone book for a million people when does anybody even use the phone book? They say this will save 2,200 tons of low-grade paper, 12 million books they used to distribute. And they cited a Gallup poll in 2008 that said only 11% of households still looked up numbers in the phone book. I'm surprised that the phone companies still do this.
There's a business there.
Well, the yellow pages,
my mom still uses the yellow pages. She doesn't use the white pages, but
really?
I mean, I gave her an iPhone, and she still uses the yellow pages to look up local businesses.
Old habits die hard.
Yeah, force of habit.
Your
Here's
mom's
the thing: a lot of people also
younger
forget.
than me, by the way. I just want to point that out.
The thing that a lot of people also forget is that there's a big business there for local businesses who are not tech savvy. And it drives me crazy to think about this, but there are actually a lot of companies out there or, retail places or, food establishments, a lot of local businesses that just don't know or understand how easy it is to put yourself as an official listing on Google Maps and on Yelp and so on.
I was talking to my massage therapist, and she's paying $39 a month to not be in the yellow pages, but to be in yellowbook.com.
That's terrible.
And I said,
it's the service, right? It's the service they offer. You call them, you say, please list me, and they take care of it for you.
But I asked her, I said, when's the last time, if you were looking for something, when's the last time you went to yellowbook.com to find? I said, how do you find something? She said, I Google it. I said, well, okay. And then I showed her Google Places. It's absolutely free to put a listing into it. I said, please just do this. Don't, $39 a month. It's free, and this is where people go nowadays. They look on Google. Now, you should have a Google Places directory listing. I mean, right?
Yeah, I think it's the service, right? It's that they will place it for you, they will list it for you. So I actually think the opportunity here is as long as the difference between these two businesses is that somebody is going to place your business in the listings in the local Yellow Book or I guess in yellowbook.com. The opportunity for Google is take care of it for people. Offer for $30 or something to create that verified listing in Google Maps. Do it for them, and there's Google makes some money, and people get it in the place that people are looking for stuff now.
If you search for TWiT, I think you can find us on Google. Actually, I think maybe TWiT LLC would probably find us on Google Places. And yeah, I'm looking right now actually, and I don't see it, but I know. They send you a postcard.
Oh, I found it.
Did you? They send you a postcard to say, are you really, is this you?
They've got 9 5-star reviews.
Isn't that great?
Leo Laporte's house, Petaluma. Wow, you got a nice pad there, man.
Somebody did that too, but I'm not going to talk about it. Let's see. Okay, now this is good. I got 2 guys on who can tell me the definition of 4G because wireless companies, particularly Sprint, a little up in arms because T-Mobile is saying our HSPA Plus, well, that's 4G. And Sprint's saying, no, it's not. So what is 4G? Is T-Mobile allowed to say that their upgraded HSPA, which is 3 to 5 megabits, which is about as fast as Clearwire is, are they allowed to say that's 4G? What makes 4G?
Mark, you want me to take this one, or you want to take this one?
I think we'll double team it. You can go first.
Okay, so 4G. Okay, so the whole G thing that is a terminology, and it's determined by the ITU, the International.
So there is an official definition.
Yes,
it's still being determined. Actually, they haven't worked out every single part of the spec yet.
But 4G was originally intended to encompass wireless broadband and wireless phone networks that operated at 100 megabits or above. So
100 megabits.
Yes. So that is the actual technical
nobody's
definition.
doing that.
I know. That's
exactly
the great irony. We'll get to that in a sec, though.
Okay.
So the ITU determines these. 3G is different than 2.75G and 2.5G, which are. We have to get into that stuff, but anyway, the point is, 4G is a thing. It is defined. It is not necessarily specifically LTE or WiMAX, although those there are a lot of
typically
standards.
Considered 4G.
Yes, 802 was 802.16e, which is the original WiMAX standard. Was considered to be a 4G standard by the ITU. But the point is, it has to operate at 100 megabits or above to be considered 4G. If it doesn't do that, it's not 4G. So what you actually have is these quote unquote 4G standards like LTE and WiMAX, which are theoretically capable of operating at well above 100 megabits, but that are actually like way, downclocked, so to speak. They're, down in the 0 to 10 megabit range. So there are 4G technologies that are not being used at what is supposed to be 4G speeds. So for anybody to claim it's 4G is a little bit disingenuous right now.
None of it's
right.
4G.
To Leo's original question, to your original question, can T-Mobile call their network 4G? Yes, they can, because Sprint started it, and they had technology that isn't close to the standard of 4G. Verizon's LTE is not 4G, like Ryan said. From my understanding, I just did a story about this about a week ago. I talked to an analyst at Gartner, and from my understanding, a lot of the slowdown is on the end of the fiber that they're using to connect to these cell towers. A lot of the internet in this country is not fast enough to reach 100 megabits.
They can't get a backhaul that's fast enough.
Right. So, 4G is a marketing term, so AT&T can say they have 4G. They're rolling out an HSPA Plus network eventually. So,
well, see, T-Mobile's actively advertising America's largest 4G network, which I imagine is kind of stunning a few people. Like, who? T-Mobile?
Well, it's tricky because they do have a large network rollout based on current technologies, not based on WiMAX or LTE, but based on current technologies.
But current technologies that are as fast as
and they're operating those technologies at speeds that are the same speeds that is what Sprint's operating its WiMAX network at. Right. So it's really weird and kind of convoluted. But in a sense, if you consider Sprint's 4G rollout 4G, then you could also consider T-Mobile's rollout 4G. But it's just it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter. What matters is, can you get fast speeds and do you have coverage? And I think that there's just a lot of confusion with this, especially because you look at AT&T. AT&T was one of the first carriers to roll out HSUPA, which is a speed increase to its network, and that's great. So AT&T now has a faster network that you can't use. You still can't use it. So
it's faster if you could
really
use
matter.
it.
It's like, can you use it?
Right.
That is what matters.
It's all about performance in a specific location, and that has a lot to do with the available amount of spectrum. But it's all just junk, this 4G stuff. Sprint, from my understanding, used 4G as an internal term because WiMAX was their fourth generation of technology that they were using at their network. And then they came to the realization, whoa, let's just use this as a marketing term. It sounds cool. It's one better than 3G.
I've been underwhelmed by WiMAX, by Sprint's 4G. Every time I've used it in Vegas and other places, it's been like, okay, not much faster. I'm not blown away by it. But maybe that's the backhaul. Maybe that's not the technology. I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before it really starts to feel the way that it's supposed to feel.
Do you guys have a bet on 4G? Is LTE going to be the wave of the future? Is it going to be the fastest? Any thoughts?
Absolutely.
It is.
LTE is. I mean, it's already basically.
This is Verizon's solution.
Verizon and AT&T.
And AT&T, right?
So you got the two biggest cell carriers in the country behind that one, and a lot of them internationally.
The one thing you won't hear about in these T-Mobile, America's largest 4G network commercials, you'll hear about speed, but you won't hear about latency. And latency is very important if you want to use this high-speed connection for things like gaming. If you don't want connection delay between, hitting the button to fire the gun and that actually registering with another player.
It is national, our last story, and then we'll let you all go. Jimmy Kimmel has announced National Unfriend Day. And by the way, on the video on YouTube, it says, follow Jimmy on Facebook and Twitter.
Naturally.
Don't unfriend him, apparently. That would be the wrong thing to do. I guess I'm going to get this banned from YouTube by playing it here.
Here's something I've been giving a lot of thought to lately. Friendship. Friendship is a sacred thing, and I believe Facebook is cheapening it. I go on this Facebook, I see people with thousands of what they call friends, which is impossible. You can't have 1,000 friends. Here's how you can tell who on Facebook is really your friend. Let's say on Friday, post a status update that says, I'm moving this weekend and I need help. The people that respond, those are your friends. Everyone else isn't. I would like people to start whittling this down. Here's an example of someone who has 545 friends. Her name is Gina. Every 5 seconds, Gina has something to say. 100 degrees in San Diego. Ugh. Gina is eating other people's food. Coffee. Gina is watching Weeds.
I'm feeling bad for this woman. I hope he asked her permission.
Should be watching Oprah right now. Yay, my weekend just started. Robin Thicke and mashed potatoes. Holer. Can the time please change already? Who might have come between a girl and her nose? It's November, yay, and cinnamon hazelnut. This woman cannot possibly have 545 friends. If she has 5, I'd be shocked. So I say unfriend her. Unfriend Gina, unfriend all the Ginas of the world. They're not your friends. Tonight I'm planning to launch a new holiday. 2 weeks from today, November 17th, will heretofore be known as National Unfriend Day. National Unfriend Day, I encourage you to cut out some of the friend fat in your life. A friend is someone you have a special relationship with. It's not someone who asks, which Harry Potter character are you? So, I mean, remember 5 years ago when no one was on Facebook and you didn't know what the guy you took high school biology with was having for lunch? Remember how that was fine? Let's go back to that. National Unfriend Day, November 17th. NUD, N-U-D. Spread the word.
It's got a good acronym.
And for more on National Unfriend Day, here's William Shatner.
Oh, dear. This is what I meant to show.
Hello, I'm William Shatner. These people on Facebook, they're not your friends. That's all.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
He was. I don't know what was going on.
What did you say his name was? Windermere Shatner?
Well, Windermere Shatner.
Shatner's got to be all about Twitter now. It's paying the bills for his TV show.
Yeah, no kidding, because he's doing the...
We'll see how
do they bill that? Because you can't say my dad says on TV. What do they do? What do they call it?
They call it Bleep My Dad Says, and they have the star and the
Bleep the name of the show is Bleep My Dad Says?
That's what they call it internally. And then on the network, they'll say it, and then they'll bleep it out.
Oh, they bleep it. So when they say it, they bleep it.
The promos, yeah.
Wow, very daring of them. I'm so impressed. So we're going to, Wednesday, we got our signature interview. I just want to give a little plug. We're going to be talking to Michael Geist. Now, here's a guy in Canada who revealed for the first time ever the terms of the ACTA treaty. He's on the forefront of electronic frontier. We'll certainly talk to him about the Jamie Thomas thing. He's been very active in recording industry issues. He's an attorney, teaches in Canada, and we will get Michael Geist on. That's 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern time, live.twit.tv. Tom Merritt and I will interview him. We're looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And we do want to ask our TWiT listeners to help us put together our holiday shows. We are asking for the best clips, the best parts of all of the shows, the parts you liked the best, and we will do a cut down for holiday week. If you go to twit.tv/bestof, twit.tv/bestof, you could tell us which of the shows you're talking about, what your favorite clip was. Mike Break Weekly this weekend, Google Windows Weekly, or Tech News Today, and we're going to put together kind of a best of show so that these guys don't have to work on the holidays. Help us do that. Best of Twit 2010. Go to twit.tv/bestof. Ryan Block's party is in San Francisco on Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Come on out. Open to the public. Everybody's invited.
Free pretzels. I don't know. I made that up.
Free pretzels on Leo.
I'll buy all the. I'll bring a couple of boxes of pretzels. That'll be on me. Okay?
No, seriously though, if you're over 21, we're going to have some free drinks for people.
Now, how do you have a sponsor that does that? How does that work out?
No, we pay for a lot of the stuff ourselves. But I mean, all the companies who we invite out, they help us pay for the show. So
they know you got to get an audience of gadget freaks who are going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're really happy to be there and be part of that.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, we've done a bunch of these shows, and normally we get about 25 or so companies to come out. This time we've gotten 50 companies. So it is by a huge margin our biggest and best show.
Yeah. That's going to be fun. You can RSVP on Facebook. Don't unfriend them yet.
You don't have to RSVP on Facebook. But it helps us to kind of know how many drinks to buy.
Right. November 12th, 7 to 11 p.m. at the I've already been invited. Veronica invited me. I didn't even see that. At the Galleria, 101 Henry Adams Street in San Francisco. And now, Mark Milian, you live in San Francisco, so you can come too.
Oh, yeah. I'll see you guys Friday.
Yeah,
I'll buy you guys a beer.
You're part of
you said it's an open bar, right?
Part of the yeah, right.
All right.
You buy him a beer.
You could fetch me the beer that Ryan is buying me. Yeah,
exactly.
There you go. All right, we'll see you out there. Anything you want to plug, particularly, Mr. Milian?
CNN.com/tech.
That's it. There. He lives there, and you're happy to be in San Francisco?
Yeah, I'm loving it. It was raining this morning, but it's nice out now, and public transportation's good, unlike LA.
Come up and see us sometime. We're just up the road a piece.
I definitely will.
Y'all come back now, you hear? Or something like that. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks also to Lance Ulanoff, the editor-in-chief of PC Magazine. Thank you all for being here. And remember, we do this show every Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2300 UTC at live.twit.tv. You can watch it happen live and unbleeped. I did something we could bleep, just one thing. And I hope you will. And otherwise, you get the show at twit.tv after the fact. Just a couple hours. We're going to edit it up and put it out there. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Another TWiT.
This is amazing.
It's in the can.
Doing the TWiT. All right. Doing the TWiT, baby. Doing the TWiT. All right. Doing the TWiT, baby.